What's up, everybody? I had a really good time going on the Crucible. That was Monday night, I believe, or no, Sunday night. That VOD got taken down. I don't know if he's going to put it back up. Hopefully, I did record it. Unfortunately, I did a shitty job recording it, so I didn't get the video. I just got the audio. Rookie mistake, but I had a really good time going on the show. Like BPF Andrew is a force to be reckoned with. I guess some people are afraid to go on his show. Like that's what he claims, like Groypers and Wignat types. He has a tough time getting people to argue on there, or they're afraid, or as others say, they don't want to give him the material. I don't really know. I personally think it's a blast, even though well he gives a lot of people a hard time. He gives me a hard time, but like that's what makes it fun. If you just go on a show and you fucking agree about everything, pretty boring. I discovered that. But I was just gonna play and comment on it. We were going at it, but and I was stating my beliefs, why I think the way I do, and him as well. I thought it was really interesting. I don't think of it in terms of like winning or losing a debate, but really hashing out ideas, at least in this case, and considering different ideas. Like I don't know. I think he's a really smart guy. I think some of the things he says in this thing don't make much sense. Other things are good ideas that might even change the way I think potentially. So, but it was a lot of fun. He's a good, strong arguer, but it's not like I used to do combat sports and get wrecked in front of a bunch of people and get fucking embarrassed. Well, sometimes I would do the embarrassing. Sometimes I would get fucking embarrassed. So to like go on the internet and get yelled at or something, it's really not that bad. So let's start this thing.
Hat. Based hat says the king of Diagolon. Based hat. Absolutely. Where's base takes? I sent you your link, asshole. Are you coming in or what? We're only 45 minutes late, but you're not that important to me. Yeah, the socks are blown off. Nice.
Yeah, I love the I love the way he just casually insults you. Like he's a son of a bitch, but that's what makes him funny. Like that's why I like him.
Couldn't see those. Couldn't see the fucking socks. That was a good point from Jonathan. Come on, base takes, get in here. The Ulto Chad savage person in order to even discuss and that's Diagolonian policy with the king and queen of Diagolon, but I made it through somehow. Base takes, how you doing? That was your favorite person who was just here, by the way.
That was pretty funny, man. What's up? How you doing?
Just living the dream. He trolled the whole country, and how does that make you feel?
It's pretty funny. I was reading about it online.
It's just pretty fucking funny, dude. I know you hate the guy, but who cares? It was the funniest shit that's ever happened in the like fucking 10 years. Never heard the like of it. It was the greatest thing ever, and it broke right here on the Crucible. Fuck you all.
No, and whatever the truth is, that's how those people, those lefties, see him in Canada. So I was just telling you about that.
Oh, gotcha. So you don't actually hate the king and queen of Diagolon, right?
No, I don't hate.
Okay, good. I
If
don't want you to hate him.
if it becomes a reality, I plan to visit. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm. Now, base takes. You've not had the greatest experience on the Crucible. Kind of the last time you came on, we kind of crucified.
Yeah, I guess I was going to summarize for maybe going through it, but I don't know. We got into some interesting discussions about deplatforming, uh, the rationale behind it. What is the most effective approach to deal with Wignats, these other types of extremists? I don't know. Now that I start talking about it, I lost my train of thought. So let's just play it. I'll address it as it comes up.
Fight you, right? That's kind of what we did a little bit, right?
Well, that is true. I described it as being like fatalitied in the Mortal Kombat game, or how else would I have described it? Yeah, but anyway, I was like, what the fuck just happened? And but it was fun. I got to say it was fun. I mean, I'm not sure everybody would enjoy it. I don't think Hunter Avalon or something would have enjoyed it, but like
I'm
you can't
glad.
get that experience many other places.
No, right here on the Crucible, the home of the Christian Inquisition, that is where you will find this type of wondrous content. Now, Base Takes, you have been vindicated. I'm going to show how you were vindicated. And so the Crucible is issuing a public apology for having crucified you for that thing, right? So what we discovered was that you indeed your account had been um, uh,
Yep, this is Hitler impersonating my account. After seeing so much evidence, he went back himself and looked and found that Hitler was indeed posting under different accounts, which led him to the conclusion that my account was faked. So that's what he's talking about.
essentially impersonated, and we had called it wrong. There was like a 0.5% chance that we would have, but we did, and so it's okay. We'll retract that. I'll show the evidence for it. But before we get to that, I just got to grill you a little bit on something, just a little bit.
Yo, yep.
No, okay, so you know, I was going back through these tweets, about politically provoked, and you were saying that hey, you know, you were working with a YouTube contact in order to get them deplatformed, right?
I made that post alluding to that. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you see, I was thinking about that, and I don't believe you. So I don't believe that you have YouTube contacts that you work with in order to deplatform people. Do you have a single shred of evidence that you actually did any of that?
I don't have a direct YouTube contact, but in all my tweeting about what was going on Politically Provoked, I kind of developed some contacts. So I don't have a direct contact. It's the contact of a contact.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. That's
is
what I had read, right? It was a contact of a contact of a contact, that kind of thing, right? Like a friend of a friend type of thing, right?
yeah.
Who's your contact?
Who's my contact?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to necessarily divulge all
Why
this
not?
information on live stream. I don't know.
Why not? Well, I mean, you're not ashamed of what you did. You back it up 100%. You think it's wonderful.
I'm not ashamed of
Who-
anything I've done. No.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. Who's the contact?
Well, I don't know. I don't even know who the person is at YouTube. But it's a contact of a
No,
contact.
no, no. That's not what I'm asking. Who's the contact that has the friend at YouTube?
It's a friend of mine,
Yeah, yeah, I know. Who?
but another anon. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm sure he has a handle, right? So, like, what is it?
there's an organization called StopAntisemitism.com, and that's who I contacted in regards to that. Because you'd be surprised how little people give a fuck about what goes on the internet. Most people don't
Well,
give a fuck. Most Jews, even, that
yeah,
don't
yeah,
like this
right,
type of activity.
right, right. I get it, but we've got this problem, right? So here's my issue now. So you contact this website, and what does the website say back to you?
It's a long conversation. I don't remember exactly. But
Give me the Reader's Digest version.
so basically, it contrary to popular belief, it is not easy to get something nuked. You have to go through. Wasn't it JF Gary Epi talked about how he did this to Fuentes? Whether you believe that's true or not, it's actually
He definitely well, my understanding from my contacts was that that definitely happened. Though I have not asked JF about that precisely. As I'm sure you know, I'm not a big fan of the deplatforming and this kind of shit. I point out often how people should try to avoid that
right.
happening to their channels, right?
Right.
But I am curious about this process. So you contact this website, and then you have a conversation back and forth. And how does that go?
Basically, the process is it's hard to get something nuked off YouTube. YouTube doesn't generally give a fuck. They care about carrying on their business. So you have to have a contact unless something is so egregious it gets flagged or you send a timestamp. So basically, they just asked for a time. I just sent them the Thomas Sowell video, and my goal actually wasn't to get them nuked. It was just that particular video. But I believe in what I did and what I have done, and I play it a little. I play it up a little bit online, to get under people's skin. But
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
it's
So,
basically how it went.
yeah. Don't well, no problem. I'm just going to explore this a little bit more. So, send them an email. You send them the Seawell video, right? And so, what do they say back to you?
They just forwarded it on, basically. That was it.
To YouTube?
Hmm.
And this organization obviously has a little bit more weight by themselves than you do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
There's
Okay.
some hardcore activist players out there. You know.
Now, I've got I've got to kind of take you to task a bit on this, man. Right? Like I have to, and here's why. See, all these wignats are always all up in my chat, and they're like, "Look, man, there's this massive Jewish conspiracy to get us." I'm always like, "No, I don't think that there is." And then you come on and you're like, well, there's I contacted this you know group, and represents your interests, and went after people using the group, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, doesn't that lend them credibility in what they're saying just a little bit?
I mean, in their belief system, this would be like confirmation bias to them, but they see that anywhere they look.
Yeah,
It
but
shouldn't
but it,
really.
but it's not bias. It's just confirmation in this particular case, right?
Well, I don't think it should be a mystery that people that talk about exterminating certain people or ridding society of them, those same then people are the ones that stand up and fight against that.
Yeah, no. That's I'm not taking you to task on the fact that you have completely different belief structures and believe that these wignats are insane fucks, because clearly they are. Okay.
Right.
My point is though is that don't you feed the flames of their perceived persecution by doing.
I mean, I think he's making a good point here, something to be considered, but if you oppose these people at any point, you're going to feed their confirmation bias. Most famously in Nazi Germany, in response to persecution of Jews, when there was that newspaper article called Judea Declares War on Germany, which was a harshly worded way of saying boycott, similar to how the world is boycotting Russia right now. That was interpreted to say, see, they're attacking us, they're at war with us. So, any way you oppose these people, that's playing hardball more than just like, I don't know, going and talking to them, that's how it's going to be perceived. So, it doesn't necessarily legitimate that viewpoint. It's like if you stand up for yourself in some type of aggressive bar scenario where you're being threatened, and then they take that standing up for yourself to be a casus belli or an act of aggression. It's something similar to that. But it is an important consideration because I think the best way to deal with these people might be to outreach to them, to almost befriend them. Like, I don't know the guy's name, but there's this big fat black dude who famously has collected like over 100 Klansmen's robes or something like that. And he does it by befriending them, not by means such as this. So it's a good point to bring up anyway.
Shit like this.
Well, that is a downside for sure. But anything you do, there's going to be a downside and an upside.
Right, right. But how many times am I going to drag you on and end up vindicating their worldview when I'm constantly fighting with them?
I don't think you
See,
will.
what it does is it makes me look like a fucking asshole, right?
I don't think it does vindicate their worldview. Like if I were to go
Well, no,
on,
no, no. From their perspective, though, right?
well, like you said, they're insane fucks. So they're gonna find a reason to hate certain groups of people no matter what they do. See, this is what they do. They antagonize, they throw bombs, and when there's any type of response, they use that to say, "Oh, we're being victimized." Like if I started a YouTube channel and I said X people are horrible and we need to do this, that, and constantly agitated against them, there wouldn't be any mystery that they would try to flag that. I mean, maybe I could use that to further my worldview, but it's the same thing that happens to Israel, right? Like, for example, if they try to defend themselves, that's going to be used against them to delegitimize the state of Israel, for example. But they still have to do it.
Yeah, but clearly it's not analogous to take a singular interview. Now, I get the politically provoked had a pattern of this type of shit. I get
Mm.
all of that. I'm not beating you up about that. What I am beating you up about, though, is that if these people cry that they're being persecuted, and then we discover that their persecutors are the people that they claim are always trying to persecute them, doesn't it really make you look fucking bad, dude?
Like I said, I don't have any regret for what I'm doing, and I mean, we could have this. I would dispute the persecution label for flagging a YouTube video in which the person is saying we need to persecute these people. Like that's a stretch. But he's talking from their point of view. You know, I get it. I don't think it makes me look bad. I think in these circles, I kind of enjoy it because people hate me because I'm more of a normie. So I think along those lines. I don't think it looks bad for me to report a channel that creates an atmosphere that hosts terrorists, because that's what this guy was, whether people want to argue whatever, and constantly reinforces an atmosphere of promoting violence, promoting hatred, etc.
But what about the side effect, though? Right? Like, I get that you achieved your goal, but the side effect of it was not that politically provoked was destroyed, only that they shifted to now run into the arms of the very organizations with no checks and balances that you espouse to hate.
Or what, like Wignat organizations or Cozy TV or
Yes.
something?
Yeah, all of it. So all of these people are all the same people that I'm always fighting with. You can agree that that's true, right? I'm always fighting with
Yeah,
these
we
fuckers.
hate the same people somehow. It's kind of funny. Yeah.
But the problem is, man, is that if you deplatform something like politically provoked and you throw their asses off the mainstream platforms, what do they have left?
Well, had they have the freak show of Odyssey, potentially something like. Look, this is a definite downside. You're bringing up an important issue as it relates
Yeah,
to deplatforming.
yeah. And so the thing is that what I feel like is that the side effect is that all these Wignats and everybody else has ended up going to Gab and these different places, and I have to engage them outside the mainstream. I can't fight their ideology if I can't reach them, man.
Well, it's easier to go on their platforms and fight them than allow them to recruit and get larger.
But you can't
Allow them
convert them. You can't convert them on their own echo chamber. There's too much to
You
lose.
can't convert these fucks anyway. It's
That's not
possible,
true.
but it's very
It's
difficult.
not true. It's
Uh,
not true. I have Wignats I've converted. I have
okay,
Groypers
it's very
that I've
difficult
brought in. Yeah, it's difficult. But the thing is that why would you take something that difficult and make it more difficult?
because why do you want to have politically provoked gain more of a and they were growing pretty fast and they had 7,000 followers.
Yeah, that's
So
okay though, right? Like, okay, so their goal was to throw the worst of the worst at the worst of the worst. and they had progressives on to check these people. There's no doubt that that's true.
I would doubt that's true. They did have debates, but the overarching theme of what happened on that channel was anti-Jewish racialism constantly in the chat, every single chat. This is what was going on the Gilded. I guess the Discord is heavily moderated, but any place where it was allowed, that's what you would see. Even the YouTube. So to say like, well, it was checked because the token leftists came in, yeah, that honestly didn't make much of a difference. So this is how he sees things because he hosts a debate show. He's like a debate bro, if you will. He's very good at it. I like it. He's maybe my favorite debate bro. I'm not using that in a negative way. I'm using it in a joking way. I think debate is overrated. Like I think it's valuable. I think it's entertaining. But to gauge an ideology in debate, even if you win, which you might not win, I certainly don't think it defeats it. It might help perpetuate it. So this is the same argument that Quibbles made. Like, well, we have these horrible people, but don't worry, there's leftists on there to check their ideology, so it negates it. Like that's just not the way it works in reality. And many people just interviewed on there and they didn't debate. They just said, "This is who I am. This is what I believe." Everyone on the cast of Politically Provoked, these are all adults, like old adults, 30s, 50s, that can be impressionable to teenagers and other young people. Somebody like Thomas Sewell, somebody like what's his name, Eric Stryker. I didn't challenge them at all. Totally agreed with them. Reinforced his beliefs. Their beliefs were never challenged. They never debated anybody. And this was totally reinforced in all the other places in chat, everywhere else. So, yeah, I definitely disagree with what he's saying here.
Like you can't
But
deny that that's true.
that's not what was happening on that show. I've heard this argument before,
No, no, no. I
and I've
agree. I agree to an extent that the host lost the neutrality. Okay, I get all of that. But what I am saying is that even if the host lost 100% of the neutrality, right? Isn't it still better that the ideology is challenged in the mainstream rather than shoving it all into one box where it can all communicate with itself? It does grow. It just grows in a different organic way than what you see on YouTube.
on the whole, I would say no. I disagree with that
Okay, how come? What's your reasoning?
because you look at people that are deplatformed, their power is drastically reduced, and they fucking hate it and bitch and moan about it. So therefore, you know it's effective. When you look at somebody like Milo, or even how many followers does Striker have on there? Like what, 5,000 followers or something? How many would he have on Twitter or YouTube? 100,000 more? I don't know.
Okay,
Fuentes.
so let's look at this. I wanted to look at this logically with you. You would say that black slavery was very unempowering to black people, right?
Yeah,
Do you think it made them less mad at the people who were enslaving them?
less mad.
Yeah,
No.
no, no. So you can take away people's power, and yet at the same time that you take away their power, something else starts to fester. There's a seething underlying anger that begins to build. And that build becomes a sluice gate. The sluice gate becomes a flood. And the next thing you know, you have a massive problem on your hand because the more people that you throw off that can dissidently band together, the more that they can come back at you times 10, right? I feel like the strategy is a very poor one.
Well, like I'm saying, I disagree with you. You know, he's bringing up a good point. You definitely have to consider it. What he's saying here, and also another thing I thought of is you create a cesspool like Gab, like Odyssey, where one of the major themes is anti-Semitism. there's other people that get deplatformed, like QAnon folks, like I don't know, COVID folks who aren't even into this type of stuff. They go on Gab or they go on Odyssey, and they're exposed to that very strong theme that they wouldn't necessarily be exposed to. So I was thinking of this last night, actually, trying to do the math, like the plus and minus of deplatforming versus radicalization on Gab or Odyssey. But I don't know. I couldn't quite come up with the answer, but at least I'm thinking about the equation. If you think it's poor, like, should they have the biggest platform possible to allow their message to reach as many
I
people as
so
possible? You know,
I would say so I would say in that case that
I don't.
what you're presenting is a false dichotomy. Not saying that it's the absolute fucking intellectual midget, identify yourself, and then we'll give you the Discord link. Identify yourself in the chat. We'll give you the Discord link, but you have to promise no TOS breaking. I want your fucking word. Okay, I want your word. Now, based here's what I'm saying again is that you can take. Do you think that just taking away people's power does won't make them want to band together in order to gain power again?
That could, yeah, that could potentially be a part of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we see with what you on the left would call traditionally marginalized people, right?
Tr- Traditionally marginalized people.
Yeah.
That's what happens with them. Oh yeah, I suppose so.
Okay. So then this is well, how are you not doing the same thing though? This my problem is like, look, I'm looking at long-term strategies. So I want to convert as many people as I can to the side of reason, the side of logic, the side of Christian thinking, and the side of Christian morality. This is my goal, right?
I try to reach out, and I enjoy debating with. He's saying he wants to convert as many people, but what about preventing them from being reached and radicalized in the first place? So he should also be thinking about that, I think. These people, like, that's how all this started before, fake names and stuff like this. I go onto their platforms and do it. That way you're not giving them publicity. Because I actually,
Base Moon, drop a link, or one of the mods drop a link to the Discord for intellectual midgets so that he can get in there and we can bring him on. I think I know who that is, and this ought to be
intellectual
interesting.
midget.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, man.
Oh no, sorry, I just got distracted. No, I try
You don't
to.
need the voice chat. You need to. I'm sorry. One second. Intellectual midget. All you need to do is jump in to any of the VCs, and I will DM you a link so that you can come on. Okay. Go ahead, based.
No, I really enjoy going at it with Wignats. I remember going 1 verse 4, which is a disadvantage, but I don't really care. Like, I enjoy it, but I would do it on their platforms. I wouldn't bring them out into the public and get them as much publicity as possible. That's what Matt Cockrell is doing, which I applaud. Right? He's debating revisionism and trying to reach a couple people. I think he says he can only convert maybe like 2% of people. But
One second, based. Hang on.
what the hell is he doing?
Always be from a moral position. What I'm getting at. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to take care of something on the Discord. So, but anyway, what I'm getting at is that I don't feel like the tactics actually meet up with what you consider the objective. Right? The objective should always be from a moral position to try to bring people to the moral position, rather than to make people desperate, as desperate people do desperate things.
What he's not including in the equation is preventing people from being radicalized in the first place. So you got to look at the full equation. That's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to consider his point of view because, like, I want to reach the right conclusion. I don't just want to maintain I'm right if I'm potentially not right. And I don't see how promoting somebody like Thomas Sewell is going to help with that objective whatsoever. I'm making the case that it's making it worse. Like you're talking about someone who doesn't really have a platform, and a show like Politically Provoked, which did have a strong trajectory, is going to give him a platform way bigger than anything you would ever find, and
Well,
other
wait a
people as
second.
well.
He had. Wait, man. This guy inside his own Telegram, I went and checked all this out, right? He's got like 25,000 or 30,000 followers. What do you
No, I
mean he
don't. I
didn't have a
don't. No,
platform?
I don't. I believe that's wrong. Okay, I don't know what the fuck happened, but I actually looked at his Telegram and it got deleted for pornography or something. So I don't know what the fuck happened.
Hang
But
on a second. I got someone else coming in here. Michael, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, let me mute the stream. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry, you guys can continue. My bad.
Yeah. Okay, so this is my perspective on it, based. I'm just telling you, I think it's unwise to take people that you fundamentally disagree with, put them all in the same place so that they can all unify to disagree with you collectively.
well, well, put them all in the same place, but they kind of are in the same place. These Wignat type people, they're all networking with each other, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter. So will it make them more cohesive? It's possible. And you're concentrating them, so like I mentioned, others can be exposed to them too. So it's a definite downside to consider. You overshoot it. That's a real risk with CD platforming because it's like okay, we put people in fucking prison, right? So people are worried. I guess people are worried about being deplatformed, right? But now we put people in prison and we have a process for doing that. Like, are you worried that you're going to be thrown in prison? Should we not have people in prisons? You know what I mean?
I don't
It's
think
Yeah,
that's analogous though. But
yeah. I
go
just
ahead.
Yeah, I didn't. I wish I stated this better. I was basically trying to say if we have processes for deplatforming people, we need to make sure we have a process to make sure that's done correctly. Because I think virtually every single person agrees a certain number of people or people that conduct certain conduct should be deplatformed, even if it's just people doing something illegal. Same thing for prison. We have a process for putting people in prison. I don't think anyone is advocating getting rid of prison because it's a slippery slope, and they might start locking people up for I don't know speech.
want to
Michael.
interject with saying that doesn't it sort of send out like an impression where if you're not able to like combat those people's ideals, you just like everyone else is able to see that okay, so you're not able to combat that ideology, and therefore you tend to go censoring them, which a lot of people tend to pick up this message, that it's better. I think I agree with Destiny on this. It's better to sort of like battle out those ideas as opposed to just sending out the impression that okay, they're just too strong for me to sort of go against, and therefore you just like censor them.
Well,
I don't
yes,
know. So,
just defeat the neo Nazis' arguments. Just defeat them in a debate. I mean,
right.
I disagree with the premise because he's saying the premise by censoring certain speech, you're agreeing that you can't defeat it. But like, how can you defeat slander if like thing? It's slander for you to go out there and say X person is a child molester. He likes to rape children from his neighborhood, and he has a dungeon. Wasn't this the Pizzagate thing, right? Like they have a they have a dungeon in their basement, and they rape kids in there, right? So why couldn't Comet Pizza? Aren't they showing that they can't defeat the arguments because they sue and try to censor this libelousness? Like, why can't they just go out there and defeat the arguments and show it isn't true? Like, why even have libel, right? Shouldn't you just be able to show that something isn't true? And if you can't show it's not true, then maybe it is true. I don't know.
But it's sort of like a battle of ideas. Wouldn't you agree that the right way to go about things is like because
Well,
you're sort of agreeing with the left at this point. That I don't know where you stand politically, but you're sort of agreeing with the left
I'm like a
when it comes
centrist.
to
No, I
this
used to
issue, right?
believe more along the lines of you guys. Now, what about, say, Alex Jones, who goes online and claims that the parents of these victims that were, I don't want to, I got to be careful what I say here with your channel,
Yeah.
or maybe you're nuking it anyway. Okay, so
Right, but you just
these
have to provide the
parents,
evidence on that.
these parents are getting harassed by people online. So why don't the parents just go out there and beat them with better arguments? Like,
Wait, no, but that's sort of like a straw man. If he's making the positive claim that this did take place, the burden is on him to prove it, right?
so the
Because I'm
burden
not
is
saying
on the
there's a
parents to say,
possibility, of
"Oh,
course.
please stop harassing me. This is
No,
the evidence that it happened."
on Alex Jones, since he's the one making the positive claim that this did happen, sort of like they did fake the whole,
So
crying and stage up the whole.
the parents should debate the haters and be like, "Oh, let me show you the evidence that it really did
This,
happen, so you guys stop harassing us and go away." No, my point is there's
uh,
certain bad actors online. I think there needs to be some level of deplatforming. Otherwise, we risk it turning into, a sewage heap, like politically provoked.
I think the right way to go about things is to prove that those people are wrong, that the evidence is not on their side, and therefore the people will make up their own minds and decide that okay, no, this person is actually wrong because the evidence on the other.
Okay, you can argue till you're blue in the face against certain movements, prove that it's fucking bullshit, like QAnon, like the Pizzagate thing, like the Sandy Hook hoax shooting. You could disprove it 8 ways from fucking Saturday, or like the 9/11 truthers. You could debunk it all. There's always going to be a certain percentage of people who don't care, don't listen, and we're not talking debating like did the moon landing happen, where nobody's going to really be targeted from that discourse except maybe like the government or NASA or something. I don't think anyone's going to go attacking NASA, but we're talking about people that are at the receiving end of harassment, like the Pizzagate parlor, the Comet Pizza place that had people showing up with machine guns to free the children in the basement that were being molested, or houses of worship when certain people are targeted, or the parents of slain children who are harassed. You can never reach a point where you reach everybody to prove something happened. So, in that case, what is the solution? That's what I'm saying. People that are slandering others and putting them at the receiving end of harassment or worse should have their, I was about to say right to Twitter, Facebook, whatever, YouTube. But really, the way it works is they lose their privilege to be on such platforms because they're using it for malicious purposes.
Side. And of course, I'm not saying that the crying parents will have to like start debate. That's such a bad faith thing to say. That like to start debating Alex Jones and just
Well,
like,
I don't think it's a bad faith thing to say because we're in this case we're talking about politically provoked and the targeting of Jewish people. So who's going to defeat their shitty arguments? I mean, you do have leftists that aren't Jewish, but it's responsibility of like no one else is going to fucking do it. So it's basically kind of analogous to say like, yeah, Jews need to get out there and defeat their haters' arguments, which even if it's done in the eyes of the haters, like that's why they're haters to begin with. Like you can't defeat their arguments in their eyes.
prove that this, like whatever go against. All I'm saying is that let the evidence speak for itself as opposed to just censoring people. Because when you do that, you're just sort of like giving out the impression that I can't, sort of battle this against the ideas of this person. Therefore, I'm just going to censor him, and
Now you
that's
see,
that's like a negative message to send out. Sorry.
base takes. I would have to say too. Like what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get your thought process to change on this as well. Right. That's my goal here. Right. Why shouldn't your goal be to get their thought process to change so that they end up coming into agreement with you, so that you don't have the type of conflict where you consistently vindicate their worldview, which seems to me to be insane.
You're wait, who The Thomas Sewells of the world, or the politically provoked
Yeah,
type
all of
of
them,
people?
all of it. Like, look, none of them are beyond redemption, right? None of them are beyond the grasp of reason or logic for the most part. I'm sure some are, but for the most part, they're not. I have been able to argue people out of insane positions many times. You've watched me do it live. Yeah, right. So, like, come on, man. There's got to be some ground here
It's
where we're
extremely
not
difficult.
coming after everyone.
It's extremely difficult. You do it. You go on Gab, and I see her arguments. They're pretty entertaining. I do. I advocate for something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of the reasons why those movements though to pick up so much momentum is because of the censoring that takes place. Because again, you've given out the impression, you're sending out the message that okay, the things that he's saying, those things are true. They're just not politically correct to say. That's sort of like the message that you're sending out when you start censoring people.
Nah,
You know,
I totally disagree with this line of
people
thinking.
will side any day over fact. With fact over feelings. That's just I don't know. That's just the way I see it.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
Jonathan Dow asked this great question. He says, would Base Takes advocate for lobotomizing these insane people? His actions are the social media equivalent of this.
yeah. In Dagalonia, we're gonna have lobotomizing. No, I mean, I guess I'm advocating for a base level of what's allowed on social platforms. Like where we draw that line. You had an interesting debate between Zen and Hef or whatever that guy's name is.
Keem.
Keem. That was a pretty good
Yeah.
debate.
Yeah, it was good.
It could have been expanded upon. Yeah, I think people advocating terrorist like ideologies or the parallels.
Right, but who is to decide what is terrorist ideology? Because I believe the First Amendment itself sort of draws that line correctly. You can sort of say as much as you're.
Well, we decided collectively. I mean, we've decided all ISIS accounts were nukable. That happened on Twitter, Facebook. They collaborated on that because they decided ISIS recruitment. Now I know this comes up later, but one person's terrorist and is another person's freedom fighter. So where do you draw the line? Well, there's a lot of lines that need to be drawn in society.
Able to
Well, who?
speak,
I mean,
except
who?
the calling out for like violent acts of violence and things like that. Yeah, that's fine, but it seems like there's this concern that I'm noticing that there's certain things that you don't want to be heard by the opposition or whatever. Like, what exactly is that?
I mean, you have lines everywhere in society. Who you lock up versus who you don't lock up. We don't want to lock up innocent people, but we certainly do want to lock up the worst of the worst. The Ted Bundys, we execute such people. We have decisions for how we do that. How do you decide who you lock up and who you execute? I
No, but you
think.
sort of moving past my question. Like, what exactly is? Because I brought up the First Amendment as being like the bright line to be drawn there.
Mhm.
Calls an act of violence to be called. Pushing for certain acts of violence. Saying go hurt this person or whatever. Yeah, that should be, of course, a crime. That should be prohibited. But what exactly about speech that's not calling for acts of violence are you concerned about that you want those people to be sort of censored and thrown off the social media platforms?
Where do you draw the line on what's allowed versus what's not allowed? Like
Like
in
what's
mine?
concerning you in particular, other than like call for violence that you don't want to be sort of shown out there or
Well,
like message to be pushed?
to get around calling for certain acts of violence, there's all ways you can do that.
No, but other
The
than that, like what exactly do you not want out there to be heard? Something that's not an act of violence that you're
something.
so concerned about that you're pushing for those people to be deplatformed or
Well,
whatever,
it's
as opposed
usually
to just
not
trying to
like
convince
to
them.
get around advocating direct acts of violence. There's all ways you can do that. The famous Bull Patrol, who was like super edgy Nazi edge lords, they used to name a journalist, and they wouldn't advocate for violence against that journalist. They would say, you know, it would be hilarious if somebody went and knocked off this journalist. So they're not advocating
Right, but
for it.
that's more of an indirect act of violence. But what I'm talking about is what exactly.
My point is, it's not illegal. He's saying First Amendment, you should be allowed to say anything that's not illegal. Well, there's many ways to indirectly call for violence that's not illegal, and I mentioned an example. So anything that delves from that, like it's illegal to it. It's the I forget the case, but It's only illegal to directly call for imminent violence. If you say something like, it would be funny if somebody did X to X, you're sort of putting that idea out there, but you're not explicitly calling for it. Therefore, it's not illegal. It's not criminally prosecutable.
Other than that, because you seem to
Other
be
other
very
other than
fixated
that,
on that, what
oh,
other
there's all
ideologies are
things
out
that
there that you'd
aren't
be against?
there's
Which
things
why you're calling for these things?
that aren't necessarily specifically advocating violence. Like we need to get rid of X people. We hate them. Society would be so much better without them. So you're not actually spelling out
Right, but we do that all the
violence,
time.
but
We
but
called
you're
out
creating
journalists
an
for being, horrible people, misreporting news or whatever.
oh,
Like however you
like we
interpret
need to
those
get rid
things, it's
of
up to you.
like we need to get rid of journalists. Society would be better without journalists.
Yeah, a lot of people
They're
call
poisoning
journalists
us.
scums and terrorists and so forth, right?
We don't,
But if you start connecting the dots from there and on, I mean, it's like
because
up
you're
to you
asking me
to.
where to draw the lines. I don't know exactly where to draw the
No,
lines.
no. To me, the line is well drawn, with the Constitution, prohibiting, calls to violence and things like that. Yeah, that's fine with me. But what I use, just getting back to what I was mentioning earlier, that you seem to be so concerned about certain, ideologies from being spread, which is why you were calling for like certain people to be censored and banned off, social media platforms. So I was just asking you, what exactly, other than the calls to violence, is concerning you so much that you want those people to be thrown off the internet, basically?
I'm more concerned about incitement against specific people or groups of people, or incitement to violence. I mean,
Right.
I don't know exactly beyond that. I mean,
All
I
right, it
don't
seems
know.
like it seems like a call. That's fine.
No, we're talking past each other, but what I'm saying is there's a lot beyond just direct calls for violence. There's organizations that indoctrinate people to such a level where they're so hateful and so fearful and so resentful of certain people that a certain percentage either turns to violence on their own or they're suggestible to it. And that's problematic. That doesn't meet the Brandenburg definition of directly calling for violence. And that's what many people do because they don't cross the line into criminality. Like there's all sorts of ways to incite against people is what I'm telling the guy. There's all sorts of way to incite against people that is protected by the First Amendment. That's not illegal. That the government can't take action against you. But I think is problematic. Like the posting of people's name. Isn't this what anti-abortion activists do, or others? They post the names of doctors' dresses. 100% legal, protected by the First Amendment. But I think it's problematic because it's kind of incitement, even though it's legal. This is the point I'm making.
Not the answer.
No, like off the top of my head, yeah, posting people's personal information like has happened to
Yeah,
certain
that's
people,
doxing. That's already a lot of social media.
but it's legal. It's totally legal.
Right.
But it's
Sure,
fucked up and puts
but do you
people at
really want
risk.
those people thrown off the internet because of doxing? Is that why you're?
Well,
lot of those
we're
right-wingers
talking
and
about
the
deplatforming.
right-wing
We're
extremists.
not
Wait,
we're not talking
wait,
about
wait.
locking people up.
You've been accused of doxing, BasedTake.
Yeah, and I've had my accounts faked and such.
Well, you're saying
Personal
you've
information
never,
is
you've
deleted
never
off of Twitter,
doxed.
is it not?
Yeah, but you're saying you've never doxed anybody.
No, I've never posted anyone's personal information. No.
That's not
Right.
what I asked. Hang on. Don't be evasive here. Have you ever doxed anybody? I didn't ask if you posted their personal information. I asked if you had ever doxed them.
No, I haven't. That's what doxing is.
No, it's not. You could send other people personal information and then they post it.
Oh, okay, I see. No.
You've never done that.
Nope.
Okay, I just want to make sure, man, because there might be some evidence to the contrary when we talk about guys like Norvin and this type of thing. Are you sure that you've never done anything like that? You haven't been on Kiwi farms doing it. You haven't done any of that.
No. We talked about some of this stuff, I believe, last time.
Yeah, but it's still important now.
Mm-hmm.
So
No.
you could see where Michael J, for instance, is saying, like what about doxing? And you're like, I hate doxing. But then if you were guilty of doxing, it wouldn't seem like you hated it that
Right.
much, right? So,
That'll get deleted off of Twitter. It can get you deplatformed. It's not illegal.
yeah, but I'm just,
That
I get it. I get that it's not illegal, but we're not looking at the aspect of just the legality of something. Like, there's nothing that politically provoked it that was illegal, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right, right.
But that's not
So
the
it's like,
conversation we're having. But
I get it.
he's bringing it into First Amendment. Either it's illegal or it's not. Michael.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I get what he's saying, but I'm just saying, don't I want to make sure you're not going to be a hypocrite. That's all.
right. No, I just wanted to be clear. Yeah, the First Amendment, of course, does not include things like, because back then you didn't have like the type of technology we have today for doxing. Yeah, those things should be added as, it's a list of things that could get you banned off, thrown off social media platforms. But it seems like you're avoiding to say certain things that we sort of all can assume here, which is you're this, you would sort of, you be against such things as, that are considered to be hate speech, right?
Yeah, I guess you could categorize that. I would be
Uh,
against incitement against police
okay, it's not,
officers,
incitement.
or
It's not. What do you mean by incitement?
well, I would consider incitement to be within the category of hate speech, like some of the examples I've been giving. Incitement would be, oh, these people X, like they're horrible, they take all our jobs, they undermine society, like they're a threat to us, they're trying to kill us, they're trying to destroy us. We need to get rid of them by any means necessary. That's incitement. It's not a direct call to violence, but you're inciting against certain people. Well, you're talking about calls for violence.
No,
You can
that's not what I'm talking about. Hate
well,
speech
you
in
mentioned
general.
calls of violence, but
Right. I said
you can
besides that.
incite against people without specifically calling for violence, like the examples that I gave. I'm against
Right, but
things
leaving
like
that
that.
aside, because you seem to be a little hung up on that. Let's say like hate speech. Let's say using certain slurs, whatever, using the N word, using the K word, for, something that's derogatory towards Jews, per se. Do you think people should have the right to say that in certain social media platforms, or
Um,
using the F slur for like homosexuals and things like that? Is that something that you'd be against had you had the power to ban people in certain
I'm
social
not
media
nearly as
platforms?
concerned about that, like the
But would
slurs, to be honest.
if you had the option to choose, would you ban those words from the social media platforms if you had the power to do
If I
so?
was running Twitter or something,
If you had the power to do so, sure.
I think I would.
Doesn't have to be Twitter. Okay,
I think
fair
I
enough.
would because it would be bad for business to allow the N word on Twitter.
So you prioritize business over the First Amendment.
Yeah, I was thinking like if you're running Twitter and you have LeBron James on there, big names like that, are you going to allow them to be called the N word? I mean, is that really the environment you want to create? No, I understand people are going to say, "Oh, my First Amendment rights," but it's like this is the priority for people that just want to say anything and everything. I don't think it's a priority to be able to say those slurs that make some people feel unwelcome. So yeah, I would prioritize that over just saying whatever you want.
Basically.
It's a mixture. I mean, I think the First Amendment is a misnomer how we think about it as it
Uh,
relates to social media. Definitely.
wouldn't that sort of go against the whole Section 230, where the social media platforms have agreed to abide by the First Amendment, where they're just sort of like
That's not true. They haven't agreed to abide by the First Amendment.
isn't that part
They
of a
they have the option to filter and ban as they see fit. This is a misnomer about Section 230. They don't have the
Right.
liability for what things people say, and they're encouraged to get rid of things like
interesting?
incitement, but they're allowed to ban whatever they want.
So, but incitement could be basically anything that they choose at this point. I
Well,
mean,
like there's a
if you look
gray
at
area
Twitter,
for anything. There's a gray
right?
area for anything. Like what is a
That's what
call? What is a call for
that's why they call it hate
violence?
speech, right? I mean, hate speech could just be anything.
Yeah, that's a certain area. But look, if you ban too many people, yeah, Gab is going to be full. You're going to give your business to Gab. If you don't ban enough, then Alex Jones is going to be on Twitter inciting against the parents whose children were killed and they were going to be harassed. So you got to strike the
Right.
right balance.
I guess
Yeah.
that would be an extreme argument to make about it, but yeah, sure. But you would sort of see why those, sort of those extreme groups tend to pick up so much momentum is because you'd rather go about silencing them, as opposed to battling
They're
out
gonna
their ideas.
they find anything to if one of their members. I'm not sure they do pick up momentum when they're banned. I think it's probably the opposite, but I understand his point that should be taken into consideration. Gets locked up, then they say, "Oh, the government is attacking us. We need to fight against this." So it doesn't really matter.
Right, but
We
the
should.
best way to go against that would be to prove that yeah, they were locked up for legitimate reasons. You would agree, right?
You strike the right balance, right? I don't believe in locking up Holocaust
What
defenders. I also don't believe in giving them a huge platform to spread their
what
ideology,
is
like on
Holocaust
YouTube.
defender?
I'm not going to say that word anymore.
I
What?
don't. Sorry.
So he's saying that certain speech that's banned in different countries he doesn't think should necessarily be banned in those countries. But this brings up a good point. Like, what if the script was reversed, right? So, what if, in the reversal of the script, we targeted people who were pro-Israel? Let's say the whole country decided to target people who were pro-Israel and say that that was hate speech, and that you shouldn't have a platform, you shouldn't be able to speak, you shouldn't be able to talk, things like that. You would obviously be against that, wouldn't you?
Well, certainly we would argue against that. Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
But we would
right.
have
But
to.
what if you thought you were right and we were wrong? Like, what what
Look,
measures would you be willing to take in order to continue to defend
look.
your right to the speech to defend yourself?
We don't lock Nazis up, right? Like we don't lock them up. We don't prosecute them for their beliefs. They're just not entitled to a platform to spread those beliefs. So they actually, this is what I try to tell Norvin or somebody
No, but
like
this
that
is
who
what I'm
wants to.
asking you though. I'm talking about if the roles were reversed.
Okay. Well, some people feel that's happening right now. If you, there, people on Twitter think pro-Israel people are being cracked down on campuses or even on social media, we would argue vigorously against it. That such things shouldn't be deplatformed.
Right.
I guess National Social. Certain elements of Zionism are deplatformed, like the Cock Party is banned in Israel. It's banned in a lot of places. That's Kahanism, which is extreme Zionist ethno nationalism, I would guess, that promotes the ethnic cleansing of non Jews. It's banned in many places. I don't have a problem with that because the whole point of this argument is, are we going to ban certain people and ideas or are we not? And I think virtually everyone agrees that certain ideas, conduct, displays will be banned, but where do you draw that line? And if you're over the line, I mean, we all virtually agree that a National Socialist belief structure is toxic and potentially dangerous. But if I did happen to be on the other side, I would try to argue, I don't know why it's moral. That would be an exercise in futility. But if people tried to say to get rid of pro-Israel speech, we would argue like it's just nationalism practiced by so many other nations, practiced by these people, practiced by Jews. So why is this wrong? Why is this immoral? I think it wouldn't be that bad because it would bring attention to it in the way which we would say is bad. It brings attention to the National Socialists that get banned. So you would have to use the downside to your advantage, I suppose. But he's making the point like, what if you end up banning something that shouldn't be banned? But I don't know. This has been addressed like so many times. So let me just keep playing. Socialists are arguing that they should be allowed on platforms,
Yeah.
and
What about communists? Communists who want at least say that they want a proletariat revolution against our legally installed federal government. How is that not seditious?
well, are they advocating for violence and inciting
Yes,
against certain
well,
people?
they don't say violence, right? But just like you said, there's an undercurrent to what people say, like,
Now, this is a good point he brings up because I do agree that certain communist figures like Stalin, like Lenin, even Marx are not stigmatized to the degree they should be, especially considering what they brought into the world. The same way Hitler is. So I'm not saying they should be on the same level, but when people see a Stalin picture or Lenin picture, oftentimes they don't have a negative connotation associated with it, where maybe they should, which is kind of the point he's making. So I do think it's a good point, but I would argue people advocating for those ideologies who admire those people aren't inciting against specific people to the same degree that say Wignats are. I think he kind of argues they are, but from what I've seen, my experience, which is kind of limited, it's more like a, I don't know, conceptual concept of overthrowing an amorphous government that isn't necessarily promoting physical elimination of those people, but it could be. So it is a definitely potentially dangerous ideology, and certainly one that I'm not a fan. But objectively looking at it, they're not doing the same thing. Certainly, I haven't seen it. There may be examples out there. If there is, like, I want to see them.
wouldn't it be funny if? So if the proletariat wanting, or the revolutionary communists who demand that the proletariat begin to revolt against, the evil bourgeoisie, do you think that those people are being seditious and should get locked up for doing so, or at least deplatformed,
No, we're not talking about locking people up. To be specific, that's
or
not
at
what we're talking
least be
about.
deplatformed?
It depends in the manner in which they're using it, and perhaps it should be considered under certain cases. Like
Okay, so like
there are,
what manner would it be okay for me to say that I want a proletariat revolution that would overthrow the federal government?
if you
What do you
were
think, when would that ever, and what
well, like, don't anarchists say they want to get rid of the government? So do we consider that condoning violence and eliminating, like, the physical elimination of the entire government? So I don't know. It kind of seems like it becomes a slippery slope when you start looking at certain ideologies. I've even seen communists make the case that capitalists have killed more people than communists. You know, when you look at the legacy of colonialism and slavery, you add up all those numbers, it's more deadly than communism. So is it therefore advocating violence to be pro capitalism even more so than communism? Like, because you can play these whataboutism games and comparative games and make everything look as bad, if not worse, than something else. Like, the United States has killed more people than other governments out there, like maybe North Korea, the Khmer Rouge, some governments that we would consider worse. But the U.S. has killed more people. So does that mean the U.S. is worse? No, I think this is. You have to look at the nuance of what's being advocated for and the potential results from that.
context be appropriate?
I don't know, but at a certain point, if you're advocating hatred and violence against, I don't know, the rich or certain people that you think are
But
the upper
if you
crust of
just say
society, I don't know.
proletariat revolution against anything, that's advocating violence, right?
See, I don't. I definitely. A revolution is a very broad term. It's like a very broad conceptual term. That who does that even mean? The government. Like, okay, we know what the government is, but there's all sorts of government entities, which is a lot different from saying we need to get rid of the Jays from society. It's a much more targeted, smaller group of people, and therefore threatening to those people. Like, think of it this way, right? If you put out a call to action against one individual, that's threatening because you're targeting one individual who is vulnerable. You enlarge that by, say, targeting a small group of people. In America, such groups would be like Jews or Muslims, who are 1 or 2% of the population. You start inciting against those people, they're a lot more vulnerable than the masses because they're a lot smaller, they're distinguishable, etc. When you're talking about a potential of overthrowing the government, it becomes diluted, and like who's actually threatened by that? The I don't see it as nearly being a kind of direct call for action. Like, are you calling to get rid of the president? To get rid? Like, I don't even know what that means. And I do go on to say, like, I don't think there's calling for beheading the entire government. Maybe some crazy ones. I think they're calling for. There's many different advocates for different governments who advocate for overthrowing the government. Anarchists, communists, like he says. Even within the democratic process, draining the swamp, right? Like, is that a call for violence? Definitely not. It might be kind of aggressive. So I just see I see these advocations and calls as just totally different. Like, it's like we're creating a false slippery slope and including all these other ideologies on the same plane as National Socialism. I just don't buy it. I think it's like it is a little bit hard to elucidate why that is, but on the face of it, it just seems ridiculous, doesn't it? We don't have the answers to all these questions, but they are very good questions to answer. All I know is the atmosphere at Politically Provoked, where you're bringing on a neo-Nazi terrorist leader who's filling the minds of young people with beliefs that are so extreme that cause a certain amount of
you
them to act
emboldened
in
them.
violence.
You emboldened them. You emboldened them, and you made their message 10 times more effective.
How do we not?
With your own foolishness. And you could have just let this dumb bitch destroy her own platform with just a little bit of patience because she's a fucking idiot, and instead you absolutely demanded that the people they hate the most step in to deplatform them, thus giving them the most momentum they would ever be able to have going into.
See, this is what I disagree with. It's like we have to let them stay up and spout this hatred against us, because if we do something against it, it's going to reinforce their beliefs. Well, it's like, well, then what's the point of standing up for anything? Right? Like, what Russia is telling people the West is evil and bad, and that's why we need to take over the Ukraine. So then, if the Western powers and NATO stand up to them, it's going to what? Reinforce their beliefs and feed into their system of thinking? Like, I just don't buy this. Like, you gain the respect of people by standing up against them, not by just allowing them to operate unopposed. And this is what they do when their ideas are rejected. They turn it into a rallying cry against you. Say, see, we were right. I could do the same thing. I could start a YouTube channel and talk about how much I hate X people. Just rail on them all day. They're horrible. We need to get rid of them. They're toxic. We need to rid society of them. Joke all day about how horrible they are and about their misfortune. And then they call to delete this horrible material. Like, I would expect that. Would you then utilize that? Uh, would you then utilize that to build your hatred against them? Yeah, it's possible, but that shouldn't be the main concern. The main concern is to stop this agitation toward this group of people that you might be a part of. So when you stand up to bullies or attempted bullies, they can always use that against you, but I think it's the better approach.
To an alternative platform, you don't think that that's a fool's way of doing things.
And who's she talking to now? What new followers is she gathering now?
Okay, so for Odyssey at 2,100 subscribers, right? She's doing quite well for that platform.
Yeah, is it growing much? Is she getting a lot
Well,
of outreach
no,
out there?
no, it's stalled, right? And there's only so far you can go on a platform like that. But that's beside the point. The point here is that what will end up happening is that they'll use alternative means for communication, for monies, for things like that. It's outside the reach and public eye. You can't say shit then, and you emboldened their message. This is my biggest problem. Why would you embolden their message? Because it's a fool's message, but so many people latched onto it due to your actions.
Right, because now you're giving her like a boogeyman to cry about.
No, I think it's bullshit. These people are gonna whine about whatever happens. So you're gonna leave them an open highway to do whatever it is they
Yeah,
want to do.
okay,
You
yeah.
know what I
So like
mean?
everyone's gonna whine about everything. I get it, but that
Right.
doesn't mean that there's not effective ways to do things and then ineffective ways to do things. Why wouldn't you let a platform like that die based on the fact that it's run by fucking idiots? Instead of endlessly demanding they be deplatformed beforehand, what ends up happening is they then have a message to sprinkle to their followers saying, see, they hate us because we're telling the truth. They hate us because they're actually, you know what I mean? And it's like this perpetual cycle that you're literally feeding it, man.
I think I'm starting to notice this issue with the left in particular, where there's this sort of insecurity because they feel like their message is not strong enough against the right, so they have to sort of resort to the platforming, and that's not a very positive way to go. It's why
So
in certain
we
parts
just
I
let
agree
it
with Des. Sorry.
we let a guy advocate race war because we can't defeat his message. Like
Well,
if
you
we
can
could
Yeah,
always
just
well,
combat their.
but the thing is like, what do you mean he can't defeat his message? That guy's not that smart.
of
He's not even
course
he's not even mildly bright.
I would love to debate him. It would be interesting.
Well, right.
And
So
is
you think you
anybody
could? Do you
gonna
think
see
you
that?
could defeat his message? Like, you think Destiny would have trouble defeating his message? You think I'd have trouble defeating Sewell's message? For God's sakes,
Like,
like,
you're only
no.
dignifying them when you do that. You dignify their message. You're sort of like giving them more strength than they actually have, in a
He
way.
that guy didn't debate anybody. He had an
But
interview which is going to be seen a lot, and it's just going to get new followers to his
yeah, but
shitty
the
Telegram.
platforming is such a low blow to go about things.
A
It's like,
low
why
a
not just,
low blow for a neo-Nazi terrorist leader
even
who's
if they
calling
are
for
neo
race
Nazis,
war.
whatever you want them to describe them as, whatever. Like, why not just debate the person about, the market of ideas, where your idea can be seen as more superior than that the other person. Because when you go about, the platforming the person, again, you're giving them a reason to complain about and say, okay, look, we were right about, the whole issue, and they're silencing us because we're right about it, everything we're saying.
Yes, we've given the people calling for race war another reason to be upset. That's true. But
I
also,
mean, you
there's
can
less
sort of
people
strawman
hearing
it
that message.
in such manner, yeah, that's fine, but
That's not
it's
a
still the
straw man.
fact that, well, sure, I mean, you can say that they're calling for race wars or so forth,
So
whatever, but
when he provides a link directly in his Telegram, and the first books are books that advocate for violent race war, it's not a
right, but how
straw
about
man.
you
Do you think
arguing
that
against
Synth?
them?
Do you think that Synth couldn't take this guy? Do you think that fucking I couldn't take this guy? Do you think that Zen Shapiro couldn't take this guy? You think based?
And what is taking this guy gonna do? Like, are his followers gonna be swayed? Very unlikely. I've seen this time and time again where people will watch Striker, they'll watch Colette, Mark Colette, any of these guys that look pretty stupid often in debates, and they'll always claim they won, or if they lost, they'll say, "Oh, he had a bad day." But it's a very limited avenue toward being effective, and when you debate somebody, you also give them publicity. So, like, I know this is what BPF does. He's really good at it. Like, I respect him and his crew that do these debates. But now it would be nice in the marketplace of ideas if winning debates actually solve the problem, but it's really not the way it works. It's why Lipstadt didn't want to debate the Holocaust to begin with, because even by debating, you're legitimizing someone's beliefs somewhat because you're giving them a platform. Like there's pluses and minuses to all these approaches, but you debate somebody like Sewell, you give them a bigger platform, you make people say, this looks interesting. No, I'm not saying don't debate. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not a solve all. Like, I actually do like debates and discussions, but I think you got to think about how you do them. That's why it's better to go and do them on their platform where you're talking to their followers and not potentially recruiting new followers like Politically Provoked was doing on a huge ass platform like YouTube. What else do I want to say about this? So the debate bro thing does not solve real world issues, but I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying it's a tool, but a potentially limited tool. And it's totally outweighed by giving the guy a bigger audience. At least that's what I'm convinced of.
Homeschool Mom couldn't, or any of the other dozens of great, wonderful debaters that we have, could not take this ideology and dismember it live. What Destiny did to Eric Stryker live was far more effective than what you did to Politically Provoked in order to de-radicalize the mindset of the Wignat.
That's bullshit because he wasn't doing debates. They come on, they give an interview.
Well, he didn't
It's
have a
an
chance, right? He didn't have a chance before
he wasn't going to
destroyed
debate.
the platform that he was
like
able to be on.
You just want to like rationalize you just deplatforming the person because that's just sort of all it seems like that's.
But you're not morally. It doesn't seem like you're morally opposed to it. You're arguing that it's ineffective. At least Andrew.
Wait,
I don't know.
what?
At least Andrew.
Well, then that would be morally opposed to it. So,
Okay.
yeah, I use deontological thinking, right? I use duty, right? So when I'm thinking about my duty to my fellow man, it's not to shut down everything that they think, but rather I'm trying to bring them towards a solid goal, a solid end result, something that I would find to be in a moral alignment with what their duty is, right? I don't think that you have any duty to deplatform people because you don't like their message. I think you have a duty instead to convert those people to a moral message. That's the difference between us. I don't have to cheat, right? So that's the thing, is I don't have to cheat, bro. I can win.
It's not
by
cheating.
Just kicking their. It's cheating.
It's not
fucking cheating. It's cheating. It's cheating.
Yeah, you're crippling the person
They're
from
cheating.
Debating, being able to debate. So
no,
they're cheating
they
our
cheating?
Society.
No, that's dude. You're stretching, man. It's cheating.
They take advantage of freedom of speech to poison our society. They're cheating. They're toxic. That's what they do.
No. The board is set. The chess game is set where your pieces can only move the same way their pieces can. What you do is you take 4 pieces off their board and you say it's a fair fight. It's not a fair fight, right?
But we're talking about people who don't fight fair. We're talking about people that lie, that slander, that incite. They're not playing fair. That's the point I was making here. And you want to engage them in a fair fight, but they're not engaging in a fair fight. So there's something more complicated than just defeating their ideas in the marketplace, which I'm fully confident has been done and can be done. But it doesn't solve the problem of them creating echo chambers, recruiting people to their echo chambers. That's the main problem.
Pieces move the same. It's a cheat. It's literally cheating, right? Like you Politically Provoked will never know, right, whatever would have really happened with that platform or the potential it may have reached or not reached or anything in between, because you fucking destroyed it before it ever got its legs underneath it, right? And and the way you did it was cheating, right? You didn't take them on. You didn't best their best. You didn't wreck the best that they had. You didn't show everybody what they were. You cheated.
So the people that are advocating for exterminating others, locking them up, if they had the chance, we cheated them. That's what you're saying.
No,
We cheated them.
you cheated everybody and their brother who is willing and can go on destroy these ideologies in the mainstream of public opinion live.
Well, I wasn't even allowed to do
We
that. I'm
can
politically
fuck
provoked,
yeah,
but
but it's not about you specifically.
right. He's missing the point. Like, this isn't a football game that existed where the best side is going to win. It's a whole like system community they have over there that has created this toxic environment, is recruiting new people on mainstream platforms to this environment, and is totally immune from the football game slash debate that ends up happening. Even if they get their asses kicked, it doesn't negate that. That's what he's not considering here. And plus, you can lose. Like, you could lose a debate to somebody who's incorrect. Like, it's possible. It definitely happens. So it's not a solve all. Okay.
Other people can do it. Are you saying that I can't wreck a Wignat? Have you fucking seen me not do this?
Of
Have you
course
seen me
not.
not wreck these fucking people? Of course I can. And there's other people who can too. You know what I mean? But you have
And I can
destroyed the
too.
opportunity. Yeah, and you can too. So the thing is, it's like you can't destroy the opportunity for people to, because every one of these fucks I wreck is one more step towards my ideology becoming solidified because it's better.
I apologize. I cheer what you do, what Matt Cockerell does, but like I fundamentally agree with what we're talking about right here. But I like
So
hearing your disagreement because there is a possibility I'll change my mind. So
do you
And
somehow regret
this
that,
is my goal.
that approach that you took against political provoked? If you had the chance to do, it, would you like do it again? If what you or you sort of like
I
take
would absolutely do it
that
again
action?
because I know in the moment
Oh,
I told somebody like I don't care what the fuck the repercussions are. Yeah, I'm definitely reporting this guy in this interview. I don't think you understand. I don't think you know the guy, but that's what I did in the
I
moment.
just don't think you feel confident enough to be able to battle against those that guy's ideas.
That's
That's
bullshit.
what it
I've
seems to
I've
me.
challenged. He's missing the fucking point. Like, this is the limit of debate. Most of these motherfuckers who won't even debate, and then you do debate them. It's not some magic fucking solve all. It's not like some duel on a battlefield where you win and it solves the fucking problem. It's just recruiting new people to their platform. It doesn't solve that problem. To their echo chamber. Challenged Wignat so many times. They
Because that's just such a like an
never
incompetent
fucking come
approach.
on stream. It's not about whether I can defeat his ideas or not. It's about, are we going to give this guy a much bigger platform to
Yeah, no,
recruit
I think
to
it is.
Telegram?
I think it's that
All right,
you're
well,
scared.
let's
Right.
You
So
debate
like,
what?
some
Wait.
fucking
but I mean,
Wignats.
who wouldn't be eager? Who wouldn't be eager if you really thought that you could take their ideas and you could destroy them, you could mangle them, you could mess them up? Who wouldn't be eager to do that in order to advocate and replace it with their own ideology, which they thought was superior? Of course, you would do that.
That's not the way it worked on that channel, or not the way it works in these circles. It's an echo chamber that's created, and no outside ideas affect these
Well,
places.
you fucking sent them all there, though. What? You
Like,
sent them all to the fucking echo chamber. You can't say it's all an echo chamber when you send them all to the fucking echo chamber.
Right. I
it's
mean, this is just it's very good. Like, I wouldn't cheat on a test if I knew that I could freaking ace it like 100%. Like, this is like what it seems like to me. You felt like your site was not competent enough to
this is
take
just
a
not
battle against this
this
person.
is
What
just nonsensical thinking. Like, you're
it's
not gonna.
nonsensical. All right.
I just don't think it's sensical. There is a downside to
Well,
deplatforming.
I don't know what to tell
Um,
you, man.
How is it nonsensical? So you would cheat on a test you knew you could ace?
I might cheat on a test. No, I'm just joking. No, it's nonsensical to think you're gonna put the worst ideologies out there, give it the biggest platform you can have, and because we got some smart people that are gonna defeat these people in debates, that's the way to handle it. That's irresponsible and nonsensical. That's what I'm saying.
Well, how is that irresponsible to say that we know our ideology is superior. We'll engage with them. We know our rhetoric is better. We'll engage with them, right? Unless you
You
have
should
so
engage
little
with them.
faith, unless you have so little faith. Why do you have so little faith in people, man? Do you think that people can't have their minds changed?
I don't have faith in the downtrodden being easily snapped out of such ideologies that somebody like Thomas Sowell spreads. You know what I mean? Like the best policy is prevention in the first place. That's my line of thinking, and this is what we're arguing right here. You know,
Well, no. My line of thinking is that uh, I'm the fucking best, the greatest. I'm the most awesome, and I will just take them out using superior argumentation, using the best that I can bring to the table. And if I lose, I lose. That's how you win, man. That's how you win. You can't win by giving them a unification of an enemy to go after and then solidifying their hatred of that enemy because they can easily point out that you went after them. That's don't you see how foolish that is?
I just don't agree with your line of thinking here. I
Yeah,
did.
but that's not an argument. I don't agree is not an argument.
Okay, well, we fundamentally disagree on the subject,
Yeah, I know we
and
fundamentally disagree. That's not an argument.
okay,
Right, basics. Like, do you consider like their ideology was like so sort of convincing or compelling that you have to just like take such a a low blow against them that otherwise you wouldn't like being able to stand a chance? Is that like how you feel internally?
obviously not. I've said so several times. That's
It's
not the
just there's
issue
like no
here.
other explanation for like why then someone would do
Can
take
you
such an action. I just
can you
don't think it.
snap? Can you argue somebody out of a cult because you're good at arguing, or should you
Yes.
not let them go into? Really, it's extremely fucking
Yes.
difficult.
No.
It's extremely fucking difficult.
No.
And
No, it can
family
be
members
done.
have had people where they can't reach their family members for years.
Yes, I understand that, but we're not
Right.
going to stop collective organization of people because of the potential that you won't be able to bring them back. We don't do that as a society. It's not good for society. If we were to say break up a cult that way, they would say, see, everything in our cultish ideology is true. We told you they were going to come for us,
Of
and they
course they
did.
will. That's what they
Well,
always say.
right, but that's it. That's the trap,
Well,
right?
you're
If
giving them
you
more reason to at that
So
point.
let's let cults recruit people on Twitter because otherwise they're going to complain about it.
Right.
Be
The
like,
way to
see, they're
counter
proving
that would
us
be
right.
to present a better counter argument to their ideology as opposed to just like fucking shooting them or something like that. Because at that point, you're
Shooting them.
proving, like, deplatforming or whatever. You can like, make us anonymous or whatever you want. That's sort of like what I mean. Just a better counter argument looks a lot more brave than anything else. Like deplatforming, just like taking the sort of the cowardly attack in a way.
Super chat for $5 came in from Dan Zaman. He said the only thing that Wignas advocate for is an ethno state, which you support for Israel. Why do Americans need to be pro-Israel anyway?
Well, they don't need to be pro-Israel. My flag simply represents the fact that I'm American, I'm Jewish, I'm proud of it. Yeah, it is like waving a flag in front of the Wignats. It's not some like I'm super Israel defender guy, although it could be easily misinterpreted that way. What shit? What did he ask again?
But you would deplatform that guy if you could, right? That guy asking that question. If he had asked that question on Facebook and you had the power to deplatform people on Facebook, you would have deplatformed that guy,
No, I
right?
wouldn't deplatform that guy.
I don't know. That can be a little anti-Semitic, right?
No, there's a difference
Wouldn't you agree?
between criticizing Israel
I know there's a
and
difference. That's
advocating
considered to be
for
anti-Semitic
eliminating
by the ADL.
all of those people from our society. The question was how are Wignats different from Israel? Wignats supposedly say they want a ethno state. Well, that's not all they say. Like I said, there are extreme Zionists who advocate for hatred against Arabs and the elimination of Arabs from the state of Israel. I'm pretty sure they're deplatformed for their extreme ideas. So that would be the correct parallel to make there.
That's not the comparison that I'm drawing here. What I'm saying is that could be considered anti-Semitic if you go by the ADL's definition of anti-Semitism, questioning the loyalty,
So you
the
don't
like
want to
dual loyalty to
deplatform. You
Israel.
don't want
That's
to
one of those things
deplatform
that
anybody because now you're taking issue with where the
deplatforming,
lines are
acts of
drawn.
calling for acts of violence, and doxing people. That's something I'll completely be 100% for
Right.
deplatforming.
I
As
wish I
far as
could have
like
shown the
deplatforming people just because I can't battle their ideology, I guess that's just completely a cowardly move to
I
make.
put the Twitter thread of Hitler faking accounts and chasing me all over the internet. I thought that was funny. I don't know if you want to show that, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can get into it. I think that this is even more interesting. I think you've
yeah,
already
it,
been
it,
vindicated on the front. I've already admitted that your account was impersonated. So there is vindication there for you.
how did you figure that
Um,
out?
I figured that out by going through old chats and seeing the account shift. So one of the things about YouTube is that if you have a fake account, you can go back to old videos and it'll show up as the fake account if somebody
Yes.
changes it. So I was able to discern that you were telling the truth. That aside, right? You still have other problems that are going on that don't really give you complete vindication. One of them is that you worked with this other organization specifically for the deplatforming of uh, this platform that they weren't doing anything by any metric that's actually immoral, right? So I would draw the line when you guys are always asking, like, where do we draw the line? We draw the line at things that are immoral. That's where we should draw the line. We shouldn't draw the line at anything else.
It was
Okay,
immoral. It is immoral.
how?
Allowing a community to form that actively incites and openly talks about violence against certain communities. That's what happens there. I can prove that. I can send screenshots.
Wait, talks about
Not
violence or incites violence? Which one? I'm sorry. I don't know.
Both. Like it's just a part of the culture. That's what I'm maintaining takes place here. That's part of say what Thomas Sowell does. We're talking about an ideology that's so extreme that brainwashes people to such a degree where even if acts of violence aren't necessarily proposed, people take it upon themselves to do it.
Right, but like,
Like I
what
think
about
that's
pushing
what's
forward
happened.
more superior ideology as opposed to just again? We just sort of keep going. I
Well,
know we keep going in
why
circles, but
couldn't you convince the guy that these people that shoot up religious buildings, why can't you convince them? What's the problem there?
well, I
Why
mean,
can't
there's certain
you?
ways you can go about those things,
wait,
right? You
wait,
can
wait,
sort of
wait, wait. There, no, that's not analogous. Again, listen. What specifically can you point to that politically provoked was doing that was immoral?
Immoral is allowing. I was just describing this, right? Allowing a atmosphere that on a consistent basis advocates, reinforces, allows people to advocate for hate and even potentially violence against certain groups of
No,
people.
no, not potentially violence, right? We're not talking about potential violence. Were they advocating for violence?
What I was trying to say here, it's not like specific calls for violence, but an atmosphere that jokes about it, that talks about it, that says, the big H didn't happen, but it should have. So it's an atmosphere that constantly reinforces this hatred and flirting with violence or eliminationism. So you can say it's all ironic, whatever. It's just an environment that creates and constantly reinforces that kind of viewpoint and worldview. That's what I'm saying. Not direct acts, but it doesn't
Okay, they
have to
weren't.
be
They weren't
direct
advocating.
acts.
Okay, so they weren't. So just having a community where the potential exists for the advocation of violence is every community on planet Earth.
Not in the same manner, no.
No, well, no, I didn't say.
He's like I remember seeing a screen name where this is during the Sewell interview. The screen name was "Kill All Jays." So kill all Jays. What do you think that means? So is that a specific call for violence? No, it's not. It's an atmosphere that I say creates and reinforces. I'm trying to think if there's a better way to put it. But yeah, that's how I would say it.
Say in the same manner, I said every community on planet Earth has the potential to advocate for violence, right?
That he must have misunderstood me, or I didn't explain it correctly. Not every community is doing this. Not every leftist community is saying, like police officers are horrible. We need to get rid of them, etc., etc. It creates this type of environment that does have the potential to make somebody motivate them to take things into their own hands, which is the environment of many of these people that act out. That's what initially motivates them. Well, no, I'm saying was occurring, not had the
That's
potential
not what
to.
I asked you. Let's try this one more time. Every community on planet Earth has the potential to advocate for violence, right?
Yes.
Do they?
No.
So shouldn't we wait till they do?
But I'm maintaining that was the atmosphere that existed there
There
in other
no. Well,
similar
then how come they
places.
never did it?
Well, are you on their servers? Do you see what goes on? Do you
Wait, what
see
violence do
the.
they advocate for? Just
Yeah.
to be
What
sure.
violence?
It's a general atmosphere of violence of
That's not saying anything.
It's a
All
well,
right.
it
non-issue.
doesn't
What?
mean anything to you.
No,
No.
no, it doesn't mean anything to anybody. It doesn't say anything, right? It's like, okay, so I'm in a general atmosphere where you're an asshole. What does that mean, man?
Just
You know what I
creating an
mean? Like, what is
atmosphere,
that?
constantly talking or joking about getting, you know, committing violence against certain groups of people. It's an atmosphere that's maintained that affects the way people think
Okay,
and
and
done on a consistent basis.
you can show evidence that actual violence was being advocated for.
Not specific calls for violence. I didn't really
Okay,
see that.
so then if just the potential exists, and we agree
It's
that the
not just
potential
the
exists,
potential. It's a
but even
atmosphere.
if there's a more likelihood of potential advocacy for violence, even if there was none, right? Well, what degree do you stop that? 40%, 41%, 46%, 56%? Like, what fucking degree do we stop it?
I don't know,
Man?
Andrew. There's a judgment call for everything in life, you know? And we're not talking about locking people up. We're talking about
Yeah, but don't
deleting
we
VODs off
often?
YouTube.
Yeah, sure, agreed. But don't we often use judgment, using rationality, where we use discernment to say this is the threshold for which you cannot cross?
Yes.
Yeah, and don't you think that we should really push towards that for everything in life? This is the threshold you don't cross. And if it's subjective, then why would we be fucking pushing towards, whatever you think is correct versus whatever I think correct is correct versus us coming to social cohesion on what is actually correct?
Well, YouTube made the judgment, right? I just brought it to their attention, right? They have a terms of
Not
service.
really. No, that's not really what happened. What happened was they would have been fine, and they probably didn't actually do anything that was against the terms of service for what they got bit off for. Now, they did some shit that was against TOS. Nobody's going to deny that that shit's true.
Advocating
I'm
for
not certainly not me.
advocating for
Okay,
National
but if
Socialist
what they
beliefs.
got, but if what they got thrown off for was what you reported, then that's some fucking super bullshit, bro.
You think the advocation of National Socialist beliefs on YouTube to an audience isn't against terms of service?
I think that National Socialism.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's against TOS.
I mean, Bosch literally just like preaches fucking communism.
Oh,
Why
we
would
can do
that be?
this.
Yeah.
We can do this whataboutism. I mean, it's just
Well, no, that was your example, though. Like, that's not against TOS. What are you
advocating
talking about?
to. I don't specifically know if it's against TOS, but
Of course, it's
I would
not.
imagine it would be.
There's all kinds of socialists all over the place. Some of them are nationalists. Do I think that advocating
What? That is not
for
the same thing.
Well, it depends. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that. You mean, is it okay to push Nazi ideas?
Yes, National Socialism.
Okay, no, I would say that that's probably against TOS. But my counter to this is, even if it is against TOS, it's not any worse to push those ideals than it would be to push the proletariat revolution against the duly elected government of the United States, is it?
I would say it is, and
What?
there's
How?
certain leftists that push certain violent ideologies that could potentially be thrown off. Like you got these Antifa types that are trying what advocating violence against ICE, other organizations. They could potentially be against terms of service.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm gonna try to draw the parallel for you. Okay, you have a communist on this side, and the communist is saying that he wants the working class to rise up and violently overthrow the federal government. Okay, and then you have on this side somebody who's like, I'm a national socialist and I want a workers' party. This this type of shit, and he's like the Hail Hitler guy or whatever the fuck he is, right? Can you explain why this guy over here is worse than this guy over here?
Well, I think the first guy is bad if he's advocating for a violent revolution or
But
against
that's all
certain government.
communists. So what's the point of communism? Is a
I,
proletariat revolution
I,
against the fucking bourgeoisie,
yeah, I
right?
feel like the reasons why you hate Nazism will be the same reason a lot more why you hate communism, because I think communism have like a higher casualty, or like a lot more deaths than Nazism itself. I mean, I believe
Right, but
like
let's
the
talk about what Nazi
why.
ideology advocates for. It
And
talks
let's talk
about
about what communist ideology advocates for while
okay,
we're at it.
I'm sorry.
we
Before you
can
guys continue, I have to head out. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
No
I
problem,
appreciate it.
Michael. Have a great
thanks.
day.
All right, thanks so much. You guys have a good one.
I
You
think we
too,
were
man.
talking about this in chat the other day, but it advocates for the for the elimination of Jewish people from society. That's what it advocates for, in addition to others.
But communists, most certainly, you can agree, killed tons and tons of Jewish people.
Yes,
Okay, yes. So in practice, both of these ideologies have been just as destructive to Jews.
I I wouldn't agree with that statement, but
Well, I
both
mean,
harmful.
but Stalin by far killed more.
He killed more people. Yeah, or
Well, he killed more Jews too.
no, I don't believe so.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Where?
Well, in fact, a lot of the Red Army was made up of Jewish individuals, and they died on the battlefield. That's just one aspect of it. But he also threw them in gulags, amongst other things.
I think you're missing the point where Nazi ideology advocates for the elimination of specific ethnic groups, and that's what people take an
So
issue
did
with.
Stalinism.
He did not advocate for the physical elimination of certain groups.
Yes, he did.
From the physical elimination of all planet
Yes.
Earth. I don't think so.
No, not from all. No, 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 no. First of all, uh, yeah, he. I mean, he did. If you want a violent communist overthrow, utilizing the proletariat against the bourgeoisie, against your duly elected leaders, that's literally outlined in the Constitution as being the definition of treason.
But I think leftists who advocate for and target uh, these violent ideologies, I think they shouldn't have a place on YouTube if they're specifically advocating for it.
If you're a communist, what's the goal of communism?
To overthrow the bourgeoisie,
Ah, there we
like you were
go.
saying.
So wait,
Going
wait.
back to my
So
book,
wait. What? So what's the goal of communism again? To
to create
overthrow the,
create a cashless, classless society,
stateless, stateless.
stateless society. Right.
And how do you get rid of the state?
Overthrow it with your own state.
You overthrow it,
Right.
right? That's so. Everybody who identifies as a communist is actually saying what?
I have an issue with that. I do have an issue with that.
Then why
But I
won't you
think
ever go after fucking them ever? Why is it only one side?
are they specifically advocating for the
If they
elimination of a
say they're
certain
a
group?
communist, what does that mean? Let's walk through it logically. What does it mean if you're a communist? You want
They're
what?
not advocating for the physical elimination of certain people, by definition.
They're advocating for the elimination of their
They might want
entire
to. They
government.
might want to overthrow them. Look, I don't like communists. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't
Okay, okay,
propose
that's great.
rules.
That's great. That's great. That's great. That's awesome. You don't like communists. I get it. I understand it. But I'm asking, why won't you ever go after them?
I don't have much experience with communists. Like, I haven't encountered them in these circles. Maybe I've argued against leftists, but
Wait. You've
I don't.
never encountered communists on Twitch or YouTube? Yeah, fucking right. If there's something, have you
Who's
ever
a
heard of BreadTube? Who's never
is
heard of
Vaush a
BreadTube?
communist?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're all. So I'm going to ask you again, right? If this ideology over here is what you consider to be the worstest of the worstest of the worstest, I get that, right? But if you agree with me that this one over here is really fucking bad too, do you think you can take just a second to also go after the fuckers on that side like I do? Right? I go after the leftists who are insane. I go after the right wingers who are insane in equal proportions. Don't you think that it's okay for you to do it too?
I am not Superman like you, man. I don't have the time or dedication or skill that you do. Perfectly happy admitting that. I don't know. I'm in these circles. Like, I don't encounter communists. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Some cringy
Bro,
leftists.
bro, look, it looks very selective. Okay, it just looks like it's selective targeting,
Well,
right? This is a target rich ass environment.
well,
By your logic, if the criteria for why you're going after these people is because you think they're dangerous, boy, I've got some left wing organizations to show you. You
well,
know,
it's intriguing to argue against people who hate you, right? Like, I don't. You're whatever Irish and English or something.
yeah,
Yeah, you have haters, I guess, but to argue
bots.
against Wignats, to argue against Wignats who hate you for who you are, that's something else. So that's why I'm attracted to that because I'm interested in the people that hate me and why they hate me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
that really doesn't answer to this other question, which is I get that why you would like to argue against people who hate you for immutable characteristics. I understand all of that. But if your point was to tell me, look, Andy, the reason that I absolutely have to go out and deplatform these people is because they create an environment which fosters violence. And I say, well, so does this group over here, and it's fucking just as big. It's almost bigger, probably, and it's far more main.
This is interesting, but I want to see the chat of what these people are saying that comes anywhere near close to what occurs on politically provoked or Wignat streams. Like, I can't imagine something exists. It very possibly could, but I can't picture it. So that's what I want to see.
Stream. Why won't you go after them? And you're like, well, because I don't know. Right? I don't know.
Yeah, I go
That's
after the
like
people
fucking
that are.
weird, right?
I mean, you're coming up with points, but it's like I can't. I can't do everything at once, and I can't propose a solution for like who should be deplatformed and who shouldn't be. You know, I argue
Then
against
maybe
the
you
people that
shouldn't
hate
do it,
us.
brother. Brother, then maybe you shouldn't do it.
No. What if nobody had a problem with what Politically Provoked was doing, and they were just having platforming and promoting people like Thomas Sewell for another year or something? You
Well,
know what I mean? You wouldn't care?
nobody has any problem with what BreadTube is doing, and they're doing shit that's just as bad and arguing that the
Yeah, this whataboutism, like this went on for a while. Like I get what he's saying, but I just don't see the validity. Like show me somebody on BreadTube saying something nearly as imminent as what the people say in Politically Provoked's chat. You know, I looked at their last interview, their last debate, and like I remember seeing Hitler in the chat saying like, "When we take over, we'll I don't know what words he used, like we'll eliminate people like this." And it's like, okay, that's not an imminent threat, but what? Punch a Nazi, all cops are bastards, eat the rich. Like I want to see what these people are saying that are anywhere near as toxic as Wignats or what happens on Politically Provoked. That's what I want to see.
Proletariat should be able to rise up and completely and totally destroy the entire infrastructure of the United States. They infiltrated Black Lives Matter and put communists at the head of that entire organization. We saw them riot literally in the streets. We saw destruction and rage everywhere. It's like, how are you going to tell me that's not as dangerous? And where the fuck were you?
I'm I'm definitely against that, man. You know, but we have a lot of incitement against our community. I have a friend whose synagogue was firebombed. My synagogue has been shot at. So that intrigues me. And these are
Yeah, no,
young kids being
look,
brainwashed online.
I'm not attacking you for defending you or your own against this group over here. I'm just utilizing your criteria for what you consider these groups to be dangerous based on and asking you why you don't apply it across the board.
Well, I'm not sure how we would. I haven't seen these violent communists. Like honestly, I haven't. I don't doubt they exist. Maybe it's a little bit. Maybe they're not as overt in their beliefs. I'm not really sure.
Whoa, no, no, we know we went through this.
I'm not sure. I
What
don't
is a
know.
commun? What's a communist goal? What's their goal?
Right? Yeah, we went through this, but I don't think
Yeah,
they're
okay, no, no.
advocating
What's
for
their
the
goal? What's their
physical
bro?
destruction of the political
Yeah, yeah,
class.
brother. What's their goal?
I don't think their goal is the physical destruction of the political class and the bourgeoisie.
It's not.
The physical liquidation. I
Yes.
don't think so. Maybe amongst some of
Okay,
them.
so what's a prime step for communism? It's a revolution by who against who? By the
Proletariat.
proletariat against the bourgeoisie.
Yep.
Violent overthrow. Every time there's been a communist revolution, it's been a violent overthrow. So anybody who identifies as a communist is saying that they want a violent overthrow of the bourgeoisie, which is whatever class they say. So therefore, by your logic, they would all, just by identifying as communists, be festering this environment for violence.
And
And where the
do we
fuck
have
are
a problem
you?
with violence against rich people or the political class? I mean, I guess we have
Yes.
assassinations
Yeah.
attempts, and
Yeah, I have a moral problem with that. Yes, I do.
is it a well? I have a moral problem with it too, but is it a real and growing problem?
Yeah, it's a
That
real problem, of
like
course.
assassinations attempts of what political officials or rich people? I mean,
Yes, of course, there have been assassination attempts many times against wealthy bourgeoisie. As somebody brought up in the chat, we've seen Weather Underground, we've seen communist
hmm
manifestos for bombers, we've seen all different types of people who identify as being communists and acting acts of violence. I'm not specifically saying that you should only target communists. I'm just saying if you're going to target Nazis based on the criteria that is because they foster a dangerous environment that leads to violence, then just fucking be consistent and apply it across the board. Why is that so hard?
I mean, I agree with that in principle. So,
Right, you agree with it in principle, but not in fucking practice.
well, it's hard to look at the details like just on a call like this and make a judgment call. I don't know. I don't know, man.
I think it's because that type of leftist ideology appeals to you more, so you're biased.
What deplatforming ideology?
No, no, no. The leftist ideology of communism appeals to you more
But
than
I'm
the
not a communist
emotional.
or a
I
leftist.
get it, but the emotional response you have towards Nazis is far and away far more jarring to you than the emotional reaction that you have when I say, but communists want a proletariat revolution where they completely destroy all infrastructure and kill everybody in the upper class.
I don't think that's what communists are advocating for. We
That's what
said
they're
this
advocating
again.
for.
Okay, I don't
Like,
believe so.
but there's no belief. We literally have their manifest. Like we know what they believe, bro. you know.
I don't like communists.
Like if I told you
And if they're
that's not what neo Nazis are advocating for, like, would you believe me? No, you wouldn't believe me. You'd be like, yes, they do. And I'm telling you the same thing. I'm like, bro, yes, they do want a proletariat overthrow. I've talked to, I can't tell you how many. Like, when are you going to come on to the other side too and be like, look, if you're going to be consistent about it, go after both. Go deplatform some fucking communists. Can you do that?
If they're breaking the law, they should be arrested. If they're advocating for violence or something like that, they should be deplatformed. How about that?
Well, okay, we've already determined that if neo Nazis aren't breaking the law, you still want them deplatformed.
Potentially, yeah. That's what
Yeah, well,
happened
then
in this
that's all I'm
case.
asking you to do to communists too.
Okay,
Can you do
well,
that?
I'll look more into it. I don't know what to tell you beyond that. But I appreciate you clearing the air on the fake accounts. Like I like
Yeah,
the
that now
show.
that's true, and I have the evidence for that. I'll post it in the Discord later. I was rushing to get to this stream, which is now 4 hours, which was like way fucking longer than I had planned on going.
Yep.
But Base Takes is vindicated on this one on this part of it. His account was indeed impersonated. He can clip that all he wants because it's true. I have the evidence that it's true. However, his base takes are not so fucking based when it comes to this. You've seen that the guy is logically inconsistent across the board and is very selective about who he goes after based on his personal feelings. And it's like, bro, come on. Like, just come on. Like, come over to our side a little bit.
No, I'm happy to hear your arguments based on my experience with these individuals. Right. Like I know who Thomas Sowell is. I know what he advocates for. I know what the people that have been in his organization have done. So,
Yeah, and I know what communists have done historically. And
hmm
I know what communist organizations have done here in the United States. And I know all of these things as well. And the thing is that Sewell isn't even an American, right? He's an
hmm
offshoresman.
hmm
And it's like, look, we have communists right here in America that you can also direct your ire towards. Instead, you just seem to be very selective on where you place it and on who you
So you
go
want me to
after.
deplatform communists now? I mean, I don't know.
I want you to no, that's not what I said. What I said was that I want you to direct your ire across the board consistently, like I do, right? If people are shitbags, you get rid of shitbags based on them being shitbags. You don't just selectively go after people because you don't like them. You know what I mean? I could have been a fucking at the top of the goddamn Groiper or Wignot hierarchy if I wanted to. I would not sell out my value structures to do so. So I'm just asking you to do the same thing. If these people over here are advocating for violence the same way or creating a culture for it the same way, go after them the same way. Is that really too much to ask?
I don't think so. But I would want to learn more
No.
about what they're actually advocating for.
Yeah.
Now that you
I think
mentioned it.
that's fair. Base takes, you want to shout your channel out before you go.
Yeah, it's just base takes as it appears on the screen. Same thing on Twitter. I got the really triggering photo that I got right here that pisses off all the right people. So feel free to follow me.
Well, thanks for coming on the program today. We appreciate it. It was a bit of fun. Have a great night, man.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
ya. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Well, that was a lot of fun. BPF's the fucking man. That was long. I thought it was a good conversation. Man, it was long and we kept rehashing the same points. So I was like zoning out at a certain point. So I don't think of these discussions as like winning, losing. I think of them as hashing out ideas and thought processes. And BPF's a force to be reckoned with. Like, I don't know. He's awesome. His show is awesome. Like even when he kicked me off his show, I was picturing myself like, yeah, I'm gonna do like people always do. They go and make a video like BPF is the worst, blah blah blah. But it's like I couldn't help but like the fucking guy despite it. And I don't know. I reconnected with him. We were able to get enough along enough to do that stream, which I'm much appreciative of. There's a lot of people that want to get on the show. He does a lot of good interviews. But going on his show is like the most fun thing, being challenged. And I mean, I get a little bit nervous for going on streams. Like I'm sure a lot of other people who aren't pros do, but it's like once you go on, it's not that bad. But I think I talked about our disagreements. Like we definitely addressed it as much as possible. The one thing I that's the biggest concern is when you create these echo chambers, you create a super concentration of people that can be exposed to these ideas even if they weren't before, say like QAnon types or other types. So I think that would be a concern to look at. But like anything of importance, it should be looked at, questioned, etc. And he doesn't even have this up. He had to take it down for potential TOS violations. So I'll put it up, and that's all I got to say. Everybody have a good day.